And we are Kassandra. We come to this day in love and in light and in truth. Is this acceptable to you?
Yes.
Good. We wanted to communicate at this moment with regards to what is happening on your planet Earth. Because we notice that a lot of people are a little confused. They are afraid. They are being confronted by the truth, and the truth about, how can we say this, what's behind a lot of things that are going on the planet. But we've spoken about this in groups for quite a number of years, actually. If you were to go back to some of the recordings that we spoke in these groups, even 15 years ago, you would know that we spoke of, very clearly, the division that would happen between dark and light. We spoke about the different dimensional realities and what it actually means to you when you move into the fifth. In the fifth, there is no dark and light. They do not coexist. They coexist in the fourth, the third, etc. But they don't coexist when you go into the fifth, which is why so many of you have been working on, let's say, grounding the grids of fifth dimensional reality, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually and energetically. Many of you have been doing this, and now you're actually seeing what we meant when we spoke about that division, because you can see that the light is separate from the dark. And so as the light gets stronger, it appears that the dark gets stronger. However, it's simply that there is a division that's happening. You can no longer coexist. And those that continue to coexist are either, medicated, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, which means that the heavy metals in the body are very strong due to chemtrails, water, food, medications as well. So if you have a lot of heavy metals in the body, the mind cannot function and the pineal gland cannot be completely activated, which is the whole reason why this program has been in existence very strongly for the past 15 years on planet Earth. We're not saying it wasn't in existence prior to that, but it built up its strength 15 years ago. Now, if, let's say, you're medicated, you're not going to be able to comprehend the truth about what's happening in your community. The other thing is, if you are also struggling with your finances, struggling to survive, and you're in survival mode, what does that mean? Fight, flight, or freeze. So if you're in one of those modes, you're not going to have the energy to investigate the truth or to even connect with the truth. That's another thing that's going on. And the other thing that's, we could say, happening is that if you are strongly, let's say your mental capacities or the way you've operated has been from the mental reality. In other words, you create from your mind, you exist from your mind, you exist from science, then it's going to be also very hard for you to grapple with what the truth is at the moment. So the truth, for those that are, let's say, we wouldn't necessarily even say more evolved. We would say those that are opening their heart. So it's not really a matter of whether or not you think that the spirit is more evolved or the soul is older or where they come from within the universe. It's more a matter of whether or not you're willing to go into your heart. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
So if you are existing in your mind, from the mental plane, which is also in third and fourth dimensional realities, then dark and light can coexist, because the mind can actually view, comprehend in some ways the negativity and the positivity. So the mind can swing between those two realities quite nicely. And it can also say, well, that's good, that's bad. So there's judgment there as well. And we've spoken about judgment before. There's a difference between judging something and having an opinion, or having some insight, or accessing the truth of something. When you judge something, you become very aggressive in your response to something. When you have an opinion, or you know the truth, it's more neutral, right? Mm-hmm. That's coming from the heart. Mm-hmm. So if you are operating, and you're used to lifetime after lifetime, it's quite acceptable to be operating from the mental plane in order to manifest and create what you want. And you've also been educated that the brain is far more important than the heart. Yeah. So therefore, letting go of the third and the fourth dimensional reality of which you know and understand is very difficult. It's very difficult. So you would still be grasping with, well, that's wrong, that's right. That shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't have done that. Judging yourself also. Regrets as well as something that will trap you in that third and fourth dimensional reality. And also, so does the grey matter of disappointment, sadness, disillusionment, anger, pity. You all know what those feelings or emotions are. Not really feelings, emotions. So that is what, in a way, is holding back the planet from moving into a fully light, realized reality of a fifth dimension. So in the fifth, dark and light separate. They no longer coexist. So there is a dark dimension, what you would call, fifth, sixth, seventh. It operates differently. We don't want to go into that explanation, but there are deeper and darker planes of darkness than that what you know exists upon planet Earth. Mm-hmm. So what your mind can comprehend. And there is also incredible advancements of planets and dimensional realities that exist purely in light. And remember that light is creation. The sunlight, for instance. You have so many beautiful examples of the universe existing on planet Earth. Sunlight, without sunlight, nothing can grow. Nothing is given life. So, of course, light is life, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Right? And if you were to have something that was in a darkened room, it would never grow. A plant would never grow. A person or an animal would, from lack of vitamin D, etc., would wither up and become very ill if it was in a darkened room. So what does dark do? It uncreates. It removes the light and the life from things. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you then look at the fact that if you want to move into the fifth dimensional of light on the planet, therefore there must be more light in reality. And so what are your government systems doing? Creating chemtrails to block that light so that you don't receive it in your beingness. One way you can receive it is through meditation. There is always an answer, regardless of what you may feel is a restriction. There is always an answer. There is always a solution. There is always a way to receive that light. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, if, let's say, you move into the dimensional reality of fifth dimension of light, therefore darkness no longer exists. in your reality. So what we meant by the split that's going on, some are going into the light and some are going into the darkness, and those that are in the grey are having to choose. And we spoke about this before. If darkness does not create life, how does it gain in its growth? How does it grow? How does it gain souls? How does it implement itself? Well, it takes a young soul that is evolved from a planet and it gives it lies and deceit to say, come over to my side, come and join me. This will make you powerful, this will give you control, this will put you in a position of authority, and young souls will often go there because they feel their community is, or their government system, is placing them in that unfair position that they have to choose darkness in order to survive. So if you've got an oppressive government that is taking all your rights away, instigating stronger taxes, etc., people begin to lose hope. So what do when they lose hope? And again, they go into survival mode, fight, flight, freeze. And what do? They don't act from their heart. They act from their mind. And their mind, which is not evolved, your mind isn't evolved, it's just a organ that solves problems and helps you to survive, the body to survive. So when they're operating from the mind, they can justify their negative behaviour. In other words, their survival mode of cheating, lying, deceiving, overriding, controlling, etc. Does that make sense to you? That's how they keep people in that grey matter, and they move them over to the darkness, and they're not aware. Now, you do have some that would say, well, you can give light to those souls and move them back to the light. Truth is, you can when they're in the grey area, but once they fully move over to the darkness and oath their soul to that, it's kind of difficult to do. If you're dealing with darkness, let's say you've got some entities in your home or something, and they're not earthbound spirits, so not someone who's simply passed over and got a bit lost, but we're talking a negative soul. You can't throw light at it and expect it to go away. Anyway, there's certain techniques you can do with that, but the biggest thing is to have respect for its position. However, if you want to go into the light, then you have to be truthful with yourself and truthful with what's going on. It does not mean that you need to be a warrior and go out and kill people and swear at people and be rude to people. It simply means that you need to be honest with yourself and honest with others if you can be, right? So the light is love, light and truth. That's why we use this term consistently, because light is the truth. It holds the universal laws within itself. If you are in connection with your light, you will know the truth. And the truth is that love is the strongest healer, the strongest commodity within this universe. However, in the third and the fourth dimension, love has duality. So I can't love this person. This person is unlovable. They're unworthy of love, incapable of love. How many times do some of you actually use that terminology? So in other words, you're not in unconditional love, if you can say that, right? So this division that you're witnessing on the planet means that as your light gets stronger, the gap gets bigger between the dark and the light, and it makes the dark, seem a lot stronger. The dark has always existed. Well, actually, that's not true. There was a time on planet Earth when it didn't, but it has for so long that it's part of your collective consciousness. So the darkness has been there for such a long time in its hideousness. In a way, it's been hidden. So there has always been satanic rituals. There has always been human sacrifice, animal sacrifice, sexual abuse. All of these things have gone on. And of course, abuse of power, abuse of control, slavery, all of these things that were supposed to be abolished were never abolished. They were just pushed underground, right? And now, because it was pushed to a different reality, it's all coming up for you all to witness. For you all to hopefully be honest and say, yes, it exists. Because if you're sitting on the fence and you're saying, oh, I can't believe it, that doesn't exist, oh, they would never do that, then you're not being honest, you're in denial. Because it does actually happen. It doesn't mean that in your honesty you have to be a whistleblower or you have to, go and create a vigilante group and start chopping people up. That would be the complete opposite to what you're meant to be doing. All you need to do is hold the love, the light, and the truth within yourself. And that vibration will continue to push out the negative and create a stronger frequency on planet Earth in order for it to transition into a fifth dimensional reality. Now, let's just go into Mother Earth for a moment, because many people are campaigning for the goodness of Earth and clearly for the animals, for the birds, etc., for all the life forms on Earth. And that's a wonderful thing to create awareness around that. But what we're going to say may shock some people. However, Mother Earth will evolve, whether it does with human life force on it or not. Mother Earth has been through so many different transitions and survived. So if, and we have spoken about this before, if those that habitat Mother Earth continue to disrespect her, then Mother Earth will create certain events that will push individuals to respect her. So, and will push societies and communities into coexisting because they have to survive. They have to come together rather than fight. So Mother Earth will survive. Most of you that are listening to this are either starseeds or light beings, so you also are aware that you will simply, if you happen to leave the physical body, return to whence you came. So you will also survive because your soul doesn't die. Right? So even if you lose the privilege of having a physical body, you will still live on. What you're fighting for is the collective consciousness reality of what exists on Earth. And at the moment, those realities are, how can we say, many. There are many different realities existing. And most of those realities are not positive. They're not of the light. You have over 7 billion souls on the planet, And most of those souls are living in poverty. Most of those souls are living under oppression, control and abuse. And even if you were to take just the female population of your planet and divide it directly in half, let's say half a male, half a female, that means half of your population, just because they're female, are not living the life that they wish to live. And if you were to look at the male population, we could say the same for them. There are a lot of males who are not living their truth, who get involved in negativity, and because it serves purpose financially, they continue to do so. They lie, they cheat. Anyway, if you look at any government or large company, you could say that that would be the situation. That the gentlemen that are running it are not really gentlemen. They are in survival mode. They believe that in order to survive, they must control and have complete authority over others. And that is creating a division. And so the reason we wanted to do this communication was actually to give those that we know hope. Because we are very aware that there is a lot of confusion at this moment. And there is also, what am I doing here? What is my role in this? How can I come up against this? I am powerless to help. My energy can contribute nothing. That is not true. Your energy contributes everything. If your light has the universal truths in it, and those universal truths have been held back from you. In other words, when you come into a physical body, you forget your previous lifetimes, you forget where you're from, most people forget their mission. So you forget because the astral plane that wraps around the planet Earth and the collective consciousness scrambles your frequency so that your third eye cannot be fully awake. Now, we could go into the upper chakras as well and say that many have disconnections to their upper chakras. They're not really activated, so they are not connecting with their soul groups, with their soul energy, where they came, their missions are not activated. So that's another thing, but we won't really go into that this time. We perhaps will at another time. So when you consider that you have forgotten and you're wondering, why do I feel so powerless? Why do I feel so stuck? It's because of the collective consciousness and the astral. Now, what we can say about that is the astral has over the past 15 years getting cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. So many of those souls have been sent to home where they come from. Many have been brought to peace. So the astral plane is actually getting weaker and weaker, which is why the veil is dropping and people are suddenly waking up to their intuition, to their insight and to the truth. So you have this awakening that's going on, but at the same time there's a great deal of, we could say, confusion around, well, where do I find my empowerment now? If my empowerment isn't in controlling people, manipulating, etc., if it's not in the negative, then how do I gain power? Many people have power through financial control through illness, and also control through position of power. In other words, men have a lot of control because their physical bodies are stronger than women, so they're in a position of power. They may be in the same circumstances financially and health-wise, but they're still in a position of power. And if they have been educated to abuse that power, then they have a little bit of a situation because they're going into the grey matter again. And they're getting locked into a gender agenda and the, us and them, the duality and polarity of what is in existence on planet Earth. And when you think about the collective consciousness that entraps you all, that has been created. If you look at, let's say, let's just take the third dimension. In third dimensional reality, there are planes of existence. So there's a physical plane, there is an emotional plane, there is a mental plane, and there's an energetic plane. Not necessarily a spiritual one, but there is an energetic one. Same with the fourth, right? So within these planes of existence are collective consciousnesses, or morphic fields. People give them different names. Quantum field, morphic field, all of these different fields, they give them different names, but they all mean one thing. It's collective thought. And collective thought creates realities. And when you're the one person residing in a reality with a different thought, it's very difficult to get the rest of the people around you to start thinking along the same lines as you. So you're constantly coming up against something, which means there is duality and polarity in that reality, right? And that's precisely what's happening at the moment. People are coming up against each other, against ideas, philosophies, religions, governments. They're all coming up against each other. One saying they're right, the other one saying they're more powerful, that they've got the answer. The other one saying, no, this is the ticket to freedom, vote for me, sort of thing. So you have these two sides that appear to be opposites, but in fact, they're exactly the same. They're both controlling. They're both authoritarian. They're both lying, because that's not the truth. Anything that entraps and creates suffering and pain for the people that reside within that community, within that country, that religion, etc., is not coming from love, and is certainly not coming from a higher perspective. So there is a bit of a journey in which planet Earth, and well, not planet Earth, but its inhabitants are going to go through in order to create that separation, so that those that choose, it's free will, there are those that will choose to go into the darkness. They will definitely choose that. And there are many that will choose to stay in the light. They will find the answer. They will discover the truth, first about themselves and then about the outside world. And that in itself is a journey. Everything that you experience in your earthly plane is taking you away from yourself. It's a distraction. It's all a distraction of the mind. And it takes you away from your heart. So for some, they haven't been able to meditate, haven't been able to put their mind still. Well, there's a reason for that. It's keeping you away from yourself. So it's very important at the moment to meditate again, to start meditating again, disconnecting all of your frequencies, let's say your technology, and going to yourself. We're not saying that you have to disconnect from your technology completely, but at least to spend an hour a day separate from technology to return to yourself. The other thing you can do, of course, is different yoga, mantras, exercise, and of course healthy food is a must to stay in alignment with the light. The other thing is, we would say, if you're in the light, don't start fighting with everyone around your truth, because that means you've gone into your grey matter. Express your opinion and walk away. You're allowed to express your opinion. Now, this is the difference. This is why we're saying this. As this split continues to grow wider and wider, there are going to be more, how can we say, turbulent times, right? And those turbulent times are created to pull you back into duality. Oh, they're wrong, they're evil, they're nasty, right? All the judgments.
Yeah.
So, and the anger that goes, and the pain and the suffering that goes with that. And immediately they can take you into pain and suffering and anger. They've got you again in duality. So it's not to ignore it, it's to recognize it. Aha, so this is happening to try and get me to participate in that energy. But I'm choosing love. I'm choosing light. Now, like we said, if you're in the middle and you are disassociated, numb, fight, flight, freeze, if you are actually ignoring it, in denial, etc., well, you're not contributing to the light at that point, you're contributing to the middle, right? Which is really not contributing anything in a lot of ways, yeah? It's not neutral, but it's more, we would say, contributing to the hold that the darkness has on the planet, because the more people that witness the truth, the more the truth will be revealed. Why is it so many whistleblowers are coming out and speaking their truth, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger? Because the more people that acknowledge the truth, the more the truth can be revealed. If you're in a position to speak your truth, if you're in a position of knowledge around what has been uncovered, then you can speak your truth. But we're not talking about fighting. Speaking your truth is different. It's just sharing your knowledge of what you know. It's completely different to going and chopping someone's head off, for your truth. That's not truth. It's actually quite evil. So, this separation in realities is going to get stronger and stronger. And every time you feel fear around, survival, will I be able to pay my rent? Will I be able to feed myself? Will I have clean water? What if these chemtrails make me sick? Will this happen? Will that happen? Remember, we said there will always be a solution. Do not fall into the what if. Ask yourself, how do I create a different way of being? What would it take for me to have clean air, to have clean water? Yeah? Start inviting in the solutions, not more problems. Don't get caught up in the problem. Ask for solution. Now, what's also important is that as the turbulence and the darkness gets more and more exposed, there will be things that you will be shocked by, appalled by, disgusted by, terrified by. However, these truths need to come out in order for the light to grow. You are all responsible for the collective consciousness of love, light, and truth. And that collective consciousness is actually growing. So take heart. And and really celebrate the fact that, wow, if there is more darkness coming out, it means we are really doing our job. We are really holding the light very strongly. And there are techniques, our daughter does them, there are techniques that you can use to release from the collective consciousness, to release yourself from your ancestral collective consciousness that was co-created, to make that collective consciousness weaker and weaker. There are ways that you can clear yourself from this. So the answer here is to continue healing. When you think, oh, I've been healing myself for 30 years, 10 years, 15 years. I've been healing myself. When is it going to stop? It doesn't stop, because some of you are not healing yourselves anymore. You're healing your ancestors, and you are healing the collective consciousness. So it's not always about you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I don't know whether you spoke about vaccines in this media. Would you like to say anything about that?
We will, but we would like to perhaps stop this recording and then speak about that.